Good morning. My name is Cody Galloway, and I'm a Mohanji Foundation volunteer in the United States and also Philippines. The first anniversary of the Prana Pratishtha of the Dharma Shasta Ayappa Temple, the revered family temple of Mohanji, will be observed in Palakkad, Kerala, on the 19th and 20th of May 2016. This sacred occasion marks 1 year since the consecration of the deity, whose divine presence continues to radiate blessings and protection, grace, and abundance to all who come with faith and devotion. This beautiful testimonial reflects how Dharma Shasta, the presiding deity, has lovingly accepted and embraced this family, showering them with immense protections, guidance, and divine grace. We read her testimonial called Dharma Shasta, Protector of Dharma, by a Mohanji follower. She writes, "Each week during the weekly talks with Mohanji, I hear from families struggling with the same things my family deals with: psychiatric illness, mysterious diseases, violence, emotional disconnection, and suffering that seems impossible to explain. I hope to share this testimonial as a pathway for families experiencing similar situations. I pray that these reflections and experiences may offer guidance, comfort, and hope to those navigating the pain of a family that feels irreparably broken." I completed 6 months of daily Maitri method healing under Mohanji's instructions, and within that period, the entire structure of our lineage karma began to shift in ways nobody could have believed possible. In this period, I was introduced to Mohanji's Kul Devta, Dharma Shasta, otherwise known in South India as Lord Ayappa, the Patiri Siri Dharma Shasta temple. When Mohanji opened his personal Kul Devta temple in Kundurkunu, Kerala, he was doing far more than opening a family shrine. In Indian tradition, Kul Devta is regarded as the spiritual protector of an entire lineage, quietly guiding and safeguarding generations through both visible and invisible challenges. Over time, many families lost the sacred connection through migration, modern life, spiritual disconnection, or forgetting their ancestral roots altogether. Some remained protected through continued devotion to saints, masters, or other divine forms, such as Mother Mary or Jesus, but many lost that spiritual anchoring entirely. By opening the Dharma Shasta temple to all those connected to his consciousness, Mohanji extended this grace, protection, and stabilizing force of a Kul Devta beyond ancestry or bloodline. For many, this became an opportunity to restore something ancient within their family line: protection, grace, spiritual stability, and a living connection to a higher force, walking with the lineage through generations. This is why many regard the opening of the Dharma Shasta temple as one of Mohanji's most profound acts of compassion and spiritual generosity, hope, and transformation. Karma that once felt unbearable and all-consuming became something the family could finally begin managing. Through experiential Maitri method healing, Elham, the Maitri practitioner, guided me not only in healing sessions, but also in ongoing counseling, emotional guidance, spiritual practice, and daily disciplines, tailored specifically to my condition and lineage patterns. These included a deep connection with Mohanji and Lord Dharma Shasta, as well as daily sadhanas. If there is one thing I can say with certainty after this experience, it is that Mohanji's compassion truly has no bounds. Elham shared that this beautiful opportunity for transformation through Maitri arose because Mohanji had heard the collective and individual cries of our family who were deeply yearning for relief. She explained that this karmic shift was not originally due for several lifetimes, but through Mohanji's boundless compassion, he chose to help permanently alter the course of our karma within this lifetime. When you cry for help, the Master takes action. My intention in sharing this account is to help others recognize possible patterns of lineage karma within their own families and to offer insight into a path of healing and resolution through the guidance of Mohanji and Dharma Shasta. I offer this testimonial to Mohanji and the entire lineage whose grace helped save my family and begin lifting us out of heavy lineage bindings. I hope all who read this can feel that there may still be hope for their family, some grace, protection, a moment of clarity, a breath of relief, and the possibility of transformation even in the darkest situations. Disclaimer: this account is shared as a personal spiritual testimonial and reflection on my family's healing journey through the guidance of Mohanji, the Maitri method, and devotion to Dharma Shasta. The experiences described are subjective and deeply personal in nature and are not intended to replace medical, psychological, or professional support. Every individual's path and experience will be different. Names and identifying details have been changed to protect the privacy of vulnerable family members connected to this testimony. First, the unexplained chaos. As far back as I can remember, I felt there was something sincerely wrong with my family and I, and not in a everyone has family issues kind of way. Even small visits to the grocery store would be thwarted by gruesome mental attacks as if people were swarming over and inside my head. Until my mid-30s, my heart was constantly tight, as if being tugged on a sharp rope, and I was always breathless and shaky. Before Lord Ayappa came into my life, every time I closed my eyes for even a moment, it felt like entering a war zone with thousands of soldiers, a battlefield of fighting, ripping, and bloodshed. I could never turn this TV channel off. My sleep was constantly disturbed, awakened by many beings swarming around me and inside me. These attacks happened hundreds of times a day, as if bolts of electricity were coursing through my mind like a tornado. I felt sluggish, discontented, low energy, emotionally exhausted, and no doctor was able to effectively diagnose me or what was happening. When the attacks happened, I would retreat emotionally, becoming either fiercely angry or depressed. Sometimes I could not answer calls from friends, face people, or even start the car for days or weeks at a time. Meanwhile, I could not experience even 1 second of the silence Mohanji spoke about in satsang. It felt as if hundreds of other beings were sharing my body, all fighting with one another. The effects of lineage karma. After 10 years connected to a powerful master like Mohanji, I felt ashamed of how little progress I had made spiritually. I watched people my age progress into leadership roles, become Maitri method practitioners, and immerse themselves in selfless service, while I struggled simply to function. For years, although I was experiencing serious mental and physical health issues, much of what was going on was misunderstood by both the Mohanji community and myself. On the surface, I had learned to carry my struggles quietly behind warmth, humor, and a sense of normalcy. Deep down, I sensed there was something far more complex unfolding within me, but I did not yet have the awareness or language to understand it. Looking back, perhaps that also was grace, because had the full weight of it been revealed to me too early, I might not have had the strength or stability to process it. Having spent years believing I was broken, unstable, and unreliable, I lacked any self-acceptance. With immense grace, I completed higher education but struggled to maintain stable employment. Each role seemed to end through early termination, redundancy, grievances, or circumstances that left me feeling ashamed. For one reason or another, I would eventually have to leave or withdraw. These attacks affected my work, concentration, relationships, clarity, and ability to function normally. I lived in permanent brain fog, as if even the smallest thought exhausted me. A violent and unstable family life left me deeply confused about myself and the world around me. I was weighed down by guilt, regrets, and disturbing experiences from the past that continued to disturb me. Physically, I was burnt out. Many aspirations in my life remained on hold because I lacked the clarity and stability to pursue them consistently. I watched others move forward while I struggled internally because many of these symptoms were invisible. It was not always understood by people around me, including those who meant well. I learned to mask these daily attacks with a beaming smile. They usually consisted of intense heart pain, disassociation from my body, exhaustion, and eventually seizures. If waves of these attacks arose, for example, during an event, people would often find that I had suddenly run off, gone for a short nap, or become completely disassociated. At the time, I was fully unable to control what was happening within my body. I later discovered was being shared with many other souls. I was quickly misunderstood, which made me hesitant to put myself forward for any real responsibility. There are many experiences I could write about my intention, but my intention is simply to offer an honest account of the path that brought me here, in the hopes it may help others with similar experiences. The truth was that no matter what I did, I felt delayed and pulled backward by an enormous invisible weight, like 1,000-headed snake. During this period, I became overly dependent on reassurance and guidance from the Mohanji family. I had lost trust in my own thoughts, perceptions, and inner stability. I was experiencing acute psychological distress, and although many people cared sincerely, the depth of what I was experiencing was difficult for anyone around me to fully understand. It was an isolating and disorienting period of my life. My mind felt constantly crowded and overstimulated, leaving very little space for clarity, grounding, or trust in life itself. No trust in myself, no trust in life, no trust in any higher power. The grace factor. Despite these heavy symptoms, I threw myself into meaningful online work for the Mohanji Foundation and supported projects in whatever capacity I could. The joy of selfless service for Mohanji platforms kept me going. I always maintained a warm smile and laughed through the struggles. Knowing what it felt like to be alienated, I always did my best to welcome people into the Mohanji Foundation with joy. In almost every photo of me online or at retreats, I'm laughing, joking, embracing others, or sharing joyful moments with the Foundation's youth. The Mohanji family truly carried me through my toughest times. Despite everything, something within me continued pushing forward. Through Mohanji's grace, I found the strength to continue serving, connecting, and showing up for life until I eventually reached a point of burnout. Despite an incredibly difficult start, Mohanji continued to pour immense grace over my family and I. With his protection, I was able to complete the Kailash pilgrimage against all odds. I traveled to retreats, served at the Mohanji Center of Benevolence, and witnessed the transformation of an abandoned building into a powerful spiritual center. I was lucky enough to attend the Kumbh Mela. I received immense joy from the global Mohanji family, who often held me steady during the most difficult periods. I served at retreats, acharya events, prana pratishtas, and award ceremonies, witnessing some of the most memorable moments in the history of the Mohanji Foundation. I made wonderful connections all around the world. I felt deeply blessed by that Mohanji knew me, acknowledged me, and sustained our connection. Had he not personally acknowledged me over the years, I may have disconnected from the spiritual path long ago. Connection to Mohanji's consciousness did not come easily. It was painful, difficult, and hard-earned every step of the way. But perhaps because of that, it has become even more valuable. Family burnout. I pushed through until I faced major burnout in April 2025. The family felt irreparably damaged and in a state of disfigurement. There seemed to be more sudden deaths, cancers, heart attacks, and divorces in the family than milestones. or marriages. I began to think that what we were experiencing went beyond ordinary family dysfunction. Women in my family were affected by undiagnosable autoimmune diseases and explosive tempers that often led to arguments lasting hours into the night. After 25 years of bitterness and silence, my parents were forced to communicate over WhatsApp, again because of my brother, H, had begun experiencing acute psychiatric breakdowns over a period of 4 years. The breakdowns became so violent and dangerous that my mother could no longer manage him alone. He would scream, cry, kick, and bang on doors for hours at a time. My father quietly waited for daily updates while supporting my mother financially from a distance. Each day, H became more paranoid, disillusioned, and unstable, while my mother became increasingly powerless. At the same time, I was navigating my own inner struggles and often felt emotionally unequipped to support my parents through their grief. And then Elham came into our lives. Elham. I had previously worked with Elham regarding another matter, which I need not go into here. I experienced her as a deeply compassionate, gentle in her approach, thorough in her guidance, and someone consistently who shared accurate insights straight from Mohanji himself. I reached out to Elham, struggling with breathlessness, heart pain, emotional exhaustion, and deep distrust in both myself and any higher power. To my surprise, she insisted we begin working together, and immediately we began working intensively. At that stage, I could not yet imagine how the situation would change. For the first 2 weeks of healing, Elham worked with me slowly, patiently, helping me to unpack years of struggle. This karmic burden carried many experiences that I found deeply disturbing and difficult to process, which weighed heavily on me. Initially, I resisted the process intensely, but I was gently encouraged to surrender these emotional burdens at the feet of Mohanji. Lineage karma. At the turning point, after 2 weeks of consistent Maitri method, Elham carefully explained that she did not want to alarm me, but she felt she had to share what she witnessed during one session. During each healing session, more entities continued to emerge. They were not coming from outside influences. She explained that because I was connected to Mohanji, I was protected. No, what she was witnessing was emerging from inside me. Not just a few entities, but hundreds were being cleared during intense healing sessions with Mohanji. Elham later explained that Mohanji had revealed the source of these entities and why they were appearing in such overwhelming numbers. In my lineage, there was a history of kidnapping, tax extortion, violence, and murder spanning generations. This suffering devastated entire families, especially their women and children. If impoverished farmers were unable to pay crop taxes, my ancestors would allegedly kidnap the farmers and at times even their wives and children, starving them for days. Many reportedly died from hunger and famine. Children were left orphaned, fatherless, and without protection or support. At one point during healing, I felt deep sadness in my heart that seemed to have been with me my entire life. I wanted to share this with Elham. She explained that I was experiencing a grief connected to some of the families affected by my ancestral lineage. During the session, it was not revealed that what my role in the family or I might have played within the lineage karma, as I was told that knowing this would not support the healing journey. I accepted that my connection to this lineage carried a responsibility to help bring greater awareness, healing, and resolution to what had been carried forward. She explained that the souls and entities connected not only to those who had died, but also to generations affected by that suffering were attached to my brother, and I. Apart from the initial shock and sadness, I felt relief. For the first time in my life, I no longer felt inherently broken. I no longer felt like a freak. Much of my life had been overshadowed by an invisible heaviness I could never fully understand or explain. The forgotten Kuldevta. The second revelation during healing was that many generations ago, our family deity had been forgotten and abandoned by the lineage, creating a severe spiritual rupture and a profound lack of grace within the family. Mohanji had often mentioned during his weekly talks that abandoning or disrespecting one's Kuldevta can leave deep karmic wounds across generations. Elhem explained that the deity was so displeased with the lineage that he did not even wish to reveal his identity. Suddenly, many of the reoccurring patterns within the family began to make sense. Divorces, court cases, delays, infertility, illness, education disruptions, and sudden deaths. It became clear that two major burdens hung over the lineage: the consequences of abandoning the Kuldevta and the karmic burden of violence carried within the ancestral line. As the next generation in the family, my brother and I seemed to carry the weight of these unresolved karmic patterns, which manifested as psychiatric symptoms and emotional instability within the family. Meanwhile, my brother's condition was worsening rapidly. The family watched helplessly as he experienced hallucination, paranoia, violent outbursts, and profound distress. On one occasion, he threw a hot stove, causing an explosion in the kitchen. My mother became fearful of making even the slightest noise without permission. She constantly walked on eggshells around him, carefully preparing meals and strictly following a diet prescribed by the specialists. Even a simple act of kindness triggered hours of screaming, accusations, and emotional chaos. Elhem later revealed that my brother had already harbored deep distrust toward the family and that his admission to an institution against his will could permanently sever that trust. He would likely feel victimized and betrayed by the family. For this reason, institutionalization was not considered to be an option. At the time, it truly felt like a situation with no clear hope or way forward. That was when Mohanji truly stepped in and gave us hope. Elhem suggested that my brother also received the Maitri Method sessions as a direct member of the family lineage. With immense dedication, she began working with my brother and me every single day for an hour each. It was an incredibly immense blessing, yet deeply challenging period. Introducing Lord Ayappa. During the healing process, Elhem shared that there was a way forward for the family, but it would require immense faith, patience, and sincere commitment from the whole family. Elhem explained that the way out of the karmic burden was to adopt Dharma Shasta, Lord Ayappa, as our Kuldevta. I had watched a few videos of the Patirisari Dharma Shasta temple opening, but I still didn't fully understand who the deity is. I only knew that Mohanji had opened his family Kuldevta temple to his devotees in the wider public. I carried enormous doubt and resistance toward the process, and the early stages of healing were far from smooth. My patterns surfaced immediately. The entities connected to the lineage worked constantly to pull me down and sever any connection being formed. Yet, despite the setbacks, something within me slowly began to open to the process, building the altar. I was first instructed to keep a photo of Lord Ayappa on my altar. However, I didn't even have an altar space. One day, I passed a local laborer who signaled for me to stop and told me that if I ever need help, he was available. Soon after, I bought a large framed photo of Lord Ayappa. Miraculously, within the very same week, the workman offered to help build a small altar room and hang the new frames. Suddenly, I had a prayer room. I began worshiping just as Elhem instructed, and the first step was to pray to Lord Ayappa, asking him to accept my family as our Kuldevta. I began chanting the 2 mantras displayed on either side of the temple. I chanted throughout the day, acceptance of the Kuldevta. During the next healing session, Elham revealed the Dharma Shasta had accepted our family as his own. This was explained to me as something miraculous. A Kuldevta does not simply enter a new family lineage without divine intervention and a profound grace. Elham explained that this change was not due to happen for several lifetimes, but Mohanji, out of immense compassion, had personally intervened and requested that the Dharma Shasta enter our home to help arrange the lineage karma and protect the family. Receiving the news that the Dharma Shasta had accepted us as his family felt surreal. For the first time in many years, I felt there may genuinely be a way out. Resistance to devotion. Once our Kuldevta was accepted into the family, the real work began. I had to build devotion. This was not easy. My pain, emotional patterns, resentment toward higher powers, and deep distress surfaced constantly during this period. It often felt as though forces were pulling me back towards darkness, and it was many weeks before I developed any meaningful connection to Lord Ayappa. I was repeatedly told the lineage karma could not be resolved overnight. The burden carried by the lineage was extremely deep and would require patience, consistency, and faith over time. Elham explained that Lord Ayappa was working continuously, almost like a machine, to help arrange and reduce the lineage karma. I was told this was not an ordinary thing, but an immense act of grace and compassion. Every act of selfless service, every meal offered, every fruit sincerely given, every prayer was being transformed into positive support for the lineage and karma. Building devotion involved daily practice, offering fruit, full body prostration and surrender, chanting Dharma Shastra mantras, praying for awareness and release of the ancestors, feeding birds, increasing food donation, and becoming more involved in ACT Foundation feeding activities. It was explained that because the lineage had caused suffering connected to food and survival in the past, feeding-related seva helped slowly restore the grace and balance to the lineage. Above all, I was being guided towards gratitude. The process was far from smooth. It brought disagreements, emotional reactions, doubts, and resistance within the family. At times, we questioned whether something as simple as prayer, chanting, feeding, devotion could truly help something so enormous. The early stages of healing were not linear. It took nearly a month of consistent Maitri before noticeable changes began to emerge, and gradually, through devotion, persistence, prayer, grace, and the intensity of suffering decreased, and a greater sense of stability began to return to my life. The changes that began to take place. During one Maitri Method healing session, Elham explained that Lord Ayappa had installed a plate of armor over my heart center. I could still feel the attacks, almost like bullets hitting my chest, but there was suddenly a deep layer of protection, where the ancestors could no longer latch onto my heart center so easily. Gradually, through consistency, devotion, and persistence, the intensity of these experiences reduced significantly. Day by day, the attacks slowly decreased. As we worked to strengthen my connection to Dharma Shasta, the number of entities reduced significantly. Elham explained that Lord Ayappa was working continuously to help clear the heaviness carried by 2 generations of ancestral suffering. This was nothing short of a complete miracle. For the first time in my life, ordinary daily living no longer felt overwhelming or unreachable. Slowly, I began experiencing a sense of steadiness, dignity, and participation in life that I had prayed for my whole life. It took a decade of continuous connection to Mohanji for these changes to occur. Many may ask why the transformation did not happen right away. Simply, we still had to bear and exhaust the lineage karma. What might have otherwise unfolded across many lifetimes of suffering in many ways consolidated into 30 or 60 years. It was also revealed that years of selfless service through the Mohanji Foundation had helped our karmic bank balance enormously. This revealed to me the immense spiritual power of Mohanji's platforms. Return of ordinary life. I gradually noticed changes beginning to emerge in everyday life. I was suddenly able to go on longer drives because I had the mental space to concentrate on the road. Previously, I would experience intense internal sensations that made driving dangerous. Now I could manage short stretches on highways with greater stability and focus. I became more capable of handling ordinary life. I could follow through on small tasks within the foundation and slowly began rebuilding the trust of people around me. My relationship with my parents improved dramatically. I was able to spend time with them without feeling emotionally overwhelmed or resentful. Instead, I began feeling compassion for the burden they carried while still trying to raise a family. Simple daily tasks, grocery shopping, organizing my apartment, answering the phone calls, going for walks, slowly became manageable again. Things that had once felt impossible began happening with more ease and grace. I was able to reconnect with family and friends over tea and meaningful time with people I loved. Before this, I had often felt too burdened to even leave my apartment. I also began working from coffee shops and found myself able to focus on online work for longer periods with greater mental clarity. Personal restoration. Personal matters began clearing up too. More friends started reaching out to me. I began doing selfless service at a local children's organization, something I had wanted to do my whole life. For the first time, I was able to exercise consistently for extended periods of time. This opened me up to classes and activities that I never had energy to participate in previously. Slowly, I began to feel more comfortable with myself and at ease around other people. My skin cleared up. I slept through the night. I developed greater focus, concentration, and clarity while completing foundation work. I also became more authentic and expressive. It felt as though my throat chakra had opened, giving me confidence to express rather than suppression. For the first time in my life, I had energy and mental space to host friends in my apartment and maintain a social life. I was able to complete my sadhana practice without lineage attacks constantly occurring, thwarting my efforts. My intuition also continued to grow, and for the first time in my life, I felt a connection with myself. I became less sensitive to criticism. It genuinely felt as if there was now a shield of armor protecting me. With increased mental clarity came a sense of fulfillment and peace I had not experienced in this lifetime. For the first time, I could enjoy simple things, feeding birds, speaking to loved ones, completing seva, and participating in life with presence instead of in survival mode. Miracles within my family. During the same period, my mother and father had their first phone conversation in 25 years. 4 months into the Maitri sessions, I traveled to Mumbai to meet Mohanji. To the surprise of the entire family, my brother willingly agreed to travel and meet Mohanji during the visit. Mohanji gave direct guidance to my brother and to myself regarding the family about how to move forward. He instructed my parents and I to visit the Dharma Shasta temple near Manarkad in Kerala as the living representatives of the lineage. Perhaps the most unexpected change of all was that we no longer needed to force institutionalization upon my brother. After 3 years of severe mental and physical deterioration, he willingly accepted Mohanji's guidance and agreed to admit himself into a holistic rehab center for trauma and rehabilitation and therapy. After years of absolute chaos, my brother packed his own bags and took a taxi to the rehab center himself. For the first time in years, my mother was able to finally breathe and rest. Visit to the Dharma Shasta temple. In true Mohanji style, every detail of the family's visit to the Dharma Shasta temple in Kerala felt miraculously and meticulously arranged. We arrived at the temple early in the morning and completed the rituals together, surrendering ourselves at the feet of Lord Ayappa. With deep gratitude, we prayed sincerely for protection, guidance, and blessings for the family moving forward. During my visit with Mohanji in Mumbai, he told me very simply, Lord Ayappa is your protection. That sentence stayed with me deeply through the journey. The Maitri Method sessions continued for another 2 months after our visit to Kerala, as further stabilization was needed. Elham later shared that Dharma Shasta was very pleased and that the family had honored their commitment to visit the temple. During one session after the visit, Elham explained that many ancestors connected to the lineage had been waiting for this pilgrimage and were finally released through the grace of Dharma Shasta. She shared that the temple visit became a pivotal turning point in helping the imprisoned ancestors to move forward. It was also strongly suggested that we maintain an ongoing connection with the temple through regular offerings, monthly donations. Devadas Ji became a wonderful instrument in helping facilitate this connection, along with many others who supported the family during this period, offering gratitude. At times, building trust in higher power felt impossible, yet through the process, Elham remained steady, patient, and deeply compassionate. She continued to guide me through periods of fear, doubt, resistance, and emotional intensity. There were many moments where I questioned everything, lost faith, projected anger, or became overwhelmed in what was surfacing. And still, Elham continued guiding me with remarkable patience and consistency. I do not believe our case was easy for her in any way. She carried the immense responsibility of helping navigate deeply rooted lineage patterns affecting the entire family system, while somehow continuing to hold compassion for each of us. Even now, as I reflect on this period, I feel immense gratitude that the tradition sent someone capable of holding such a fragile and disconnected family with such beautiful kindness. Some people enter your life as angels, others arrive as grace itself. For my family and me, it was Elham. A new start. Today, when I sit quietly before Lord Ayappa, I feed the birds in the evening, speak peacefully with my parents, complete seva, or simply move through ordinary life with steadiness. I often reflect on how impossible this reality once felt. There was a time when our family could not see a way forward, yet somehow, through the grace of Mohanji, the compassion of the tradition, the unwavering guidance of Blessed Elham, and the protection of Dharma Shasta, light slowly entered places within our lineage that had remained burdened for generations. The healing journey still continues. My brother remains under careful observation and continues moving through his own healing process. I am learning to rebuild self-acceptance, trust, and inner stability after many years of confusion. My father has even offered to reconnect with my mother in person after decades of separation, something I once believed would never happen. Although that meeting has not yet taken place, it feels like it will happen at the right time. And yet, when I reflect honestly on everything that has unfolded, one question continues to arise within me. Where would we be today without Mohanji and Dharma Shasta? How many masters possess the capability to transform the direction of an entire family lineage? During one healing session, Elham shared something that stayed with me deeply. She explained that Mohanji had left his own footprint within the lineage, symbolizing that we were no longer walking alone, but had been accepted into Mohanji's family in the field of protection and grace. Looking back now, I understand more deeply what Mohanji often says: I do my job. Help arrived in both visible and invisible ways, through guidance, healing, protection, and the right people being guided to me at the right time. This journey has ultimately been one of acceptance. Life still carries challenges, responsibilities, and lessons, but there is now grounding where there was once chaos, hope where there was once fear, and connection where there was once separation. Dharma Shasta did not simply become a deity on our altar. For our family, he became a real, live force of protection and grace in our home. Slowly, what once felt fractured began reorganizing itself around awareness and gratitude. If this testimonial offers anything, I hope it reminds those reading that even the most burdened families are not without hope, grace, or the possibility of change. No sincere prayer to a true master goes unheard or unanswered. With immense gratitude to my parents for bringing me into this world, carrying the lineage, supporting me through this journey, loving me unconditionally and always, doing their best, and with deep gratitude to my ancestors whose journey across generations ultimately led me to the feet of a living master. To those of you reading or listening who have figured out who is behind this testimonial, thank you for loving me so unconditionally through the years. Your love, compassion, and kindness literally kept me alive, kept me going. You are the absolute light of my life. Our connection is the wind beneath my wings, and I love you all so very, very much. At the feet of Mohanji and Dharma Shasta, I offer only gratitude. Where would we be without you? Jai Mohanji.